for this, I am.
Alright, hello folks. JKG here again with another playthrough of one of my toy boxes. This one is called the Battle of Jedha. And if you've kept up with my videos, I've had a few that have all been based on High Republic media. And so I had my big Starlight Beacon toy box with lots of sub-toy boxes. Most of those were based on one story line or another from High Republic. I also had recently my Young Jedi Adventures toy boxes that I made for the kids. While that sort of ties into the TV show, which is also set in that era, right? This is, I think, my last toy box, at least so far, that is based in this era. And if you want to get into the details of it, it's based further back in time in what they would consider Phase 2 of the High Republic, at least of the whole media initiative. And so it's about 100 years prior to really the other events. And if you're into the High Republic, you probably already know that, but I actually really like Phase 2. I think it gets slept on, but some of my favorite books and storylines have been in that phase. And probably one of the biggest culminating events, probably not the biggest, but probably the second biggest culminating crossing over event in lots of those stories is the Battle of Jedha. And so it takes place here, of course. Now, we were first introduced to Jedha, obviously, in Rogue One. Really a cool place. Ever since that movie, you kind of thought it was an awesome planet, of course. But I really love what the High Republic stories were able to do to sort of flesh the planet out, give it more of a backstory, fill in a lot of these ideas. And so, if I can plug real quickly, we have the Battle of Jedha audio drama. We have the High Republic comics from Phase 2. We have one of the novels, Path of Vengeance. Lots of these stories all cross over with this event of the Battle of Jedha. So I've got several little references kind of buried away in this toy box. That said, the toy box itself, there's not really a long playthrough. It's a relatively straightforward thing. This toy box was mostly for the sake of the architecture of it all, really the building of it all. In particular, we'll go look at the Temple of the Kyber in a minute. But just the whole landscape, and there's some other hidden things that I'll share later on in the video. But we're going to start this level off with just a little collection task. And this is really just to kind of get the player to visit all these different areas and get to know the place, the city, and really the era. And so this first little building we're going to drop into is the Almshouse of the Path of the Open Hand. And so if you read any High Republic media from Phase 2, they're sort of the problematic cult group, if you will, from which spawn many problems. They present themselves as though they're peaceful, but at the core they really aren't. They love to pass out little flowers and stuff to people. So we collected a little flower from in there. Next up, you can see on your radar, we have a little collectible from this, I guess I could call it a cantina, from this little bar. This is called Enlightenment. And so there's actually, I mentioned some media earlier, there are a whole series of short stories from this era also that kind of take place within Enlightenment. And it's an interesting place. We'll come back in here later on, but we got a little drink from Enlightenment, because why not? Let's go on and see what else we can find. We'll move now into sort of the city market area. This isn't maybe too different from what we would have seen in Rogue One or something like that. But while we're at the market, might as well get something to eat. So let's get a little sandwich from our vendor here. Then I'm going to take a bit of a different route here. We'll come back and check out this other quadrant of the city in a minute. But while we're close, I'm going to go ahead and drop into the Temple of the Kyber. So obviously this is kind of the part of the city that draws the eye. The idea is that they have all kinds of Kyber and Force-related artifacts inside, and so I put all kinds of little interesting pieces inside. Obviously, several of these pieces are collectible. You don't have to collect them. They're really just there for the fun and decoration of it all. But we have, you know, several people who are perhaps on a pilgrimage here visiting the temple. Lots of cool stuff to see there. You don't have a task to do in here, but it is a neat little area. Now I'll move on over to this building. This one is prominent in the comic series in particular. This is what they call the Convocation building. And so they have this Convocation, which is a big council essentially, made up of different leaders from the varied religious groups that exist on Jedha. And so we're going to get a little scroll from them, a little missive from that group. And then finally we'll come over here just to check out the landing area. We've got a couple ships secretly tucked away in the back. Unfortunately, we find an explosive device, and so it's one of the storylines that we pick up in the media is that there are some bombs planted and that sort of thing. Now, we can see a battle starting to take place. Once you get all these collectibles, it's going to trigger the actual battle. And so what we're seeing is we're going to find ourselves basically in a bit of a three-way battle. There are in our stories delegations from a couple different planets, neighbor planets, called Eiram and E'ronoh, and they're very significant within the various stories in the High Republic of this era. But they're sort of constantly at war, right? And so the Jedi think, like, maybe, just maybe, we can finally bring peace. And so they've been on Jedha in peace talks, hoping to reach a peaceful resolution. But due to some... Let's get this guy. Oh, try not to get myself blown up, didn't quite work. Due to all kinds of problems, due to interference and some weird collusion and subversion from the Path of the Open Hand, peace talks break down, and we find ourselves here in the Holy City, with a battle on our hands. And so these two planets have resorted to violence as they always do. So their droids begin huge battles in the streets. And we're trying to break it up as Jedi. Unfortunately, the best we can do is stop these warring forces, and so we'll come finish these last two guys off. I always enjoy a bit of a three-way teams battle, you know. So anytime I can work that into a toy box, I feel like that's pretty interesting. Alright, we'll get rid of this guy real quick. There we go. Alright, that's good news. Now, it looks like I do have one more guy over here somewhere. So at this point, I've cleared out the city. We don't have any more Eiram and E'ronoh droid forces, but I can see on my radar, clearly outside the bounds of the city, some other enemies. You can tell just by looking at the radar. And so this is actually going to lead us to the last little thing that we need to do in this toy box. And it wouldn't be obvious, but we have actually a secret little passage that will lead us outside of the city, down to the desert floor, where we'll find the next excitement. And so we read about this again in the comics. It turns out in the bar, in Enlightenment, there's actually a secret passageway, an old smuggler's passageway. And so if you go to the back, you probably wouldn't even necessarily see it, but there's a little passageway for us here. And so we're going to sneak on through, and we're going to let this lead us outside of the city and into the desert. You can see we've got ropes to climb there so we can get our way back into the city once we're done. But this might be my favorite part of the toy box. Again, a very iconic piece. Not just in this era, but especially, I think, when you saw it for the first time in Rogue One. We have what's referred to as the Final Protector. So this was essentially the last standing giant Jedi statue in the deserts of Jedha outside the Holy City. There had been 4. Over time, the first 3 had all fallen, but we had a 4th still standing, right, during the beginning of the comics, during the beginning of the Battle of Jedha. But again, due to the subversion of the Path of the Open Hand, they actually, cause a riot, basically, and bring a bunch of explosives to the party and cause this final statue to be blown up and brought down, which is sad. Now, there's a little more to it than that, though. We're going to go ahead and get these Path of the Open Hand guys, as they've shown up on speeders
but more challenges
to cause problems here. They weren't just sort of lashing out at the Jedi, and we have one of our Jedi friends over here, and oh, poor thing, she got knocked all the way into a wall. She's fainted, but in our comic book, one of our Jedi Knights is attacked out here by the Path of the Open Hand. They have figured out that not only is this an iconic statue and sort of represents the role of the Jedi in society here on Jedha, but actually it was a private storehouse of ancient relics, and so the Jedi had secretly been storing away dark side relics inside of this final statue. And this, of course, is why the Path of the Open Hand ultimately came and brought this thing down. They wanted access to this storehouse, and so we have all kinds of ancient, perhaps Sith-aligned artifacts in here that we can find. You've seen these pieces before, of course. Several of them, I feel like, look at least similar to Sith-related things we've seen in Star Wars media. There's an hourglass, which obviously comes from Aladdin, but we saw something like this that the Sith used in the Crimson Dawn series, if you read those. This mask, to me, looks a lot like the mask of Ochi. Again, if you read like some Darth Vader comics. We've got this old, what I'm pretending is an old Sith spirit-imbued sword, which you would have seen me use in my Yavin toy box as well. We have, obviously, famously, Thanos' glove here, but we get a very similar glove that a character finds in this storehouse. What do they call it? The Hand of Siberius? Of Cyberus? Something like that. I don't remember the exact name, but it's an important little part of the story. So anyways, we have this little secret storehouse here of dark side relics and that sort of thing. Obviously, like I said, not necessarily a ton to do on this level. It was really just a, can I build this? Can I build, a giant holy city of Jedha? And then once I had accomplished that, can I actually make something that looks like a giant fallen Jedi statue with a secret vault inside? And yeah, it turns out the answer is yes. That was pretty fun. So this is my toy box, just a quick playthrough, probably taking too long there. You can see we're kind of maxed out on the memory on this toy box, which is why there's not maybe that much to do, but I do think it's a cool area. And again, one final plug. I love these stories from the High Republic. They're really good. Phase 2 is great. People always talk about Phase 1 and Phase 3, but I think Phase 2 is pretty wonderful as well. So I hope you enjoy this. Again, if you want to play through this, enjoy this level, maybe, take it and subtract from it, add to it, who knows, do any kind of cool Disney Infinity things. You can download this now if you go to the Disney Infinity Discord server, which is linked below. You can download this for PC. You can also play this. On PlayStation if you download the Celestia bundle. So that's about it. Thanks for watching this, folks. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know if you get a chance to play this. I'd love to know. And I'll see you next time for the next playthrough.